पूर्णमादाय पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Okay, so we're saying, oh, there's Sahana. Hi, Sahana. Okay, so what does this mantra mean? Purnam. Purnam means something that's whole, complete, finished, beautiful, and whole in itself. Okay, so we're saying you see a lot of Purnam in this shloka. If you look at the words Purnam, Purnam in every line. So first it means Purnam Adah, Purnam Idam. That is complete and this is complete. Let me tell you the literal translation first and then we go to what it means metaphorically. Purnam Adah, Purnam Idam. That is complete, this is complete. Purnat Purnamudachyate. From wholeness, from completeness comes completeness. From wholeness comes wholeness. Purnasya Purnamadaya. If you take away wholeness from wholeness, okay, just stay with me. If you take away wholeness from wholeness, Purnamevavashishyate. Only wholeness remains. So let's put that together. That is whole and this is whole. From wholeness comes wholeness. If you take away wholeness from wholeness, only wholeness remains. So what does it mean? First of all, you're acknowledging that you are whole. Purnam idam. I am whole and you are whole. That is whole and this is whole. Everything we see around us is complete in itself, and so are we complete in ourselves. What does that mean? That means you don't have to keep spending your entire life looking for something outside to feel complete. Oh, you complete me, this completes me. No, there is no missing piece to begin with. You're already complete. You feel you're missing a piece because you're not looking in the most important place of all to find your completeness, which is inside yourself. Okay, we are always looking outside because the gods made sure that our sense organs were all turned towards the external world, which is so beautiful and so full of excitement and color and smells and food and tastes and beautiful sounds that we never bother to look inside, and we're always chasing after some. But we have that sense of I'm incomplete. I need something. If I have this, I will be happy. If I top my class, I'll be happy. If I belong to that group of friends, I'll be happy. And as you grow older, if I have that house, I'll be happy. If I have that car and that job, then I'll be happy. If I have that girlfriend, if I have that boyfriend, then I feel complete. But this is all just the way the gods deceive us so that we never feel complete in ourselves and we keep going back to them and saying, oh gods, we need you, please help me with this, help me with that. You don't need that. You're already complete. And how can you find that completeness? By looking inside yourself. So there is a Purnam Idam in that mantra. There is also Purnam Ada. That means not only you are complete, everybody around you is complete and radiant too. So you are no higher than anyone else, and there's no call to feel superior, not only to anyone else, but anything else in the universe. Okay? Everybody is filled with the same light, that same divine cosmic power that keeps the stars shining and the planets rotating in their orbits and the animals and the rain comes, all because of a particular order of the universe. And that order is put in by that energy that keeps us alive and conscious, and all of that is the same spark. So you are not superior or inferior to anyone or anything else in the universe. That is complete. This is complete. Second, these are all from the Upanishads, okay, from the Vedas. Now the second line is Purnat Purnamudachyate. Only from wholeness comes wholeness. What does that mean? If you are feeling that I'm missing something and you're constantly looking outside, then you will not be able to give of yourself, whether your love or your compassion or your attention or your emotion, your empathy. You cannot give it to anybody else wholly unless you feel complete in yourself. So what does that mean? Where should you start the work? Should you start by being a best friend or a lovely listener to everybody else? Or should you start by being a best friend to yourself? First, a best friend to yourself. Love yourself, respect yourself, feel whole in yourself. I don't need anything from this world. I don't need anything from my friends. So I'm not becoming their friends because I do this for you, then I want you to do this for me. No, I'm already complete. I do this for you because I'm so full of love that I just want to share it with everyone. And once you do that, you will find that the love you give is also so pure that everybody else within your orbit feels so drawn to you. So from wholeness only comes wholeness. If you don't feel whole, you cannot give of yourself to anyone else. If you don't have a full cup, what will you pour to others? Only if you feel complete in yourself, then you can give. Okay. Third line is Purnasya Purnamadaya. If you take away wholeness from wholeness, only wholeness remains. And you're like, what? How can you? If you take away wholeness from wholeness, zero should remain, right? Nothing should remain. So how can you take away wholeness from wholeness and wholeness remains? Think about that cup that we were talking about. Your cup is full of learning, of knowledge, of perhaps as you grow up, money, whatever. If you don't give it away, how can you fill it with new stuff? If you just keep what you have and cling on to it and say, no, this is mine, I'm not going to share it, I'm afraid of losing it, I'm afraid of spilling a single drop from this cup, what will happen? It will just stagnate. It will get rotten. And you will never be able to get anything more from the universe. You are stagnant. But if you give it away from completeness, from that whole cup, if you take away completeness, what happens? An empty cup is created to receive more blessings from the universe, more knowledge, more love, more understanding, more wisdom from other people and from your readings. So it becomes full again. But keep emptying it, keep giving it out. Then your cup is always fresh, always full, always ready to receive. Remember, we talked about yesterday having different perspectives about the truth. How will you be able to take other people's perspectives in, other people's truths in, if your cup is already full and you say, I know everything and this is the way the world works and this is the way it is? Then there is no opportunity for growth for yourself. So whenever you feel full, give it away to somebody who needs it more at that moment than you do. Okay, so that's the whole idea of the, and I also like to give an example of a candle. From wholeness, if you take away wholeness, you would think if a candle flame, if you use it, light so many other candles, it should become weak. That candle flame, it's giving away of itself. Shouldn't it begin to sputter and die? No, a candle is enhanced when you give. The flame is enhanced when you give. And after you've lit 100 candles, if you look at the original candle, it's still burning just as bright as before. So don't be afraid to give of your time, your attention, your compassion, your generosity to everyone around you. Don't be afraid. But make sure you are burning bright first. Otherwise, you cannot do that. Okay, so that if a candle is not already burning bright by itself, can you really light some other candle with it? No. If you try to light another candle with a sputtering candle, both will go out. That will not light, and this will also probably dim and die. Okay, so that's the whole meaning of the mantra. And this kind of wisdom comes to us from the Upanishads. But what are the Upanishads? Within the Vedas, what are the Upanishads? Let's look at that today. I'm going to share my screen just so that if you don't know those words, I want you to, they may be unfamiliar words. But remember, we talked about the Vedas, the oldest texts. What are they? Are they one chunk of text? What are they made of? Are there divisions among them? So let's just familiarize ourselves with a few words, with a few names of Vedas, okay? Anu, can you allow me to screen share? Make me co-host. Yeah, okay. Where is it? Yeah. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay, so there are 4 Vedas. just for you to know. I'll send you this PowerPoint later so you have it. So don't worry about making notes or learning it by heart or under. Just watch and listen. The 4 Vedas. One is the oldest and the largest of them is called the Rig Veda. Then comes the Yajur Veda. Then comes the Sama Veda. And then the Atharva Veda. Okay, so the first 3 were supposed to be the original Vedas, because in Hinduism and Hindu thought, ancient Indian thought, there are always 3 is a very important number. And it is in every other religion in the world also, if you look at it. And in so many other places, 3, something about 3 makes something complete, Purnam. If you think about how you sit in yogic, when you're doing yoga, if you do yoga, but even if you have to sit on the ground, anytime, cross-legged position. And the yogic position is what? Cross-legged. How many points of your body are touching the ground at that point? Anyone? When you sit cross-legged, how many points are supposed to touch the ground? When you cross your legs and sit down. Anybody wants to answer?
Nikhil's hand is up.
Oh, sorry. I can't see it all.
No worries.
Yeah, Anu, will you please help me with this?
Nikhil?
3 points.
3 points, exactly. So 3 is very important because, and why do you think, Nikhil, that it's important? Why do we sit in a cross-leg
You're
position?
sitting, like, it gives you more stability. It's like a
Stability, exactly. If you have ever made furniture or you're interested in looking at furniture, the most stable piece of furniture is a 3-legged stool. It's more stable than a 4-legged stool. So stability and wholeness, completeness comes from 3. And therefore, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda. The Atharva Veda came later. It was added on. And let me tell you a little. So the Rig Veda. What is the Rig Veda about? It is the oldest and the largest Veda. It's full of hymns and chants to the Vedic gods. And who were the Vedic gods? Who do you think were the Vedic gods? You see, so Vedic gods. Let's see. Who were the people of the Vedas? Who were the composers of the Vedas? They called themselves in their own texts, in the Vedas themselves, they called themselves the Arya, which later became and used by Hitler as Aryan. Okay, but Arya were the original. That's what they call themselves in the Vedas. These people who composed the Vedas and who lived in the northwestern part of India first, and then moved across the whole of the Indian subcontinent, especially the north, before coming south. So, so this was called the Vedic civilization because we don't have any other evidence of their existence. They were not city builders. They were not handicraft makers. They did not settle in one place. They didn't build big cities. If people did not settle and did not build big cities, what is it likely that their profession was? If they did not build big cities. Yeah, Leela. Exploring, is what else can you think of, Gautam?
Philosopher.
I don't know, but they must have done something, right? To make a living or to keep alive, to keep body and soul together. Philosopher wouldn't have helped. So if they were the sort of people who didn't settle in one place and build cities. Yeah, anybody else apart from Gautam wants to answer? Yeah, Disha. Sorry, Nikhil. Yeah.
Maybe explore and answer and ask questions.
I can't hear you very well. Your voice is breaking up a little, I think, to me at least. Say again.
Exploring and answering and asking questions.
How can you have an entire civilization like that? They have to be doing something, don't you think? Nikhil wanted to say?
They'd just be like foraging and like living on.
Yeah, so they could either be foragers who just lived off whatever they found that day to eat, or in the next level they were nomads. Okay, they were people who moved from place to place with what? If they just moved from place to place foraging, that could have been one kind of thing. But these guys were, yeah, Gautam?
They moved from place to place with all their belongings.
Yes, of course, they'd had to move, but they wouldn't have had many belongings because, you can't carry stuff. Yeah, Nikhil?
Animals.
Animals, yes. So they were pastoral nomads, means they had animals that they depended on, and with their animals, they used to move from place to place. Why would a pastoral nomadic civilization have to move? For what? Yeah, Rishi?
If they like run out of resources in the area or something.
Exactly. So if they run out of resources and their animals run out of resources, the animals were most important to them. So if the pasture dried up or was finished and nothing else was growing, then you had to move to another place where there was fresh grass and things like that. So these guys, the Vedic civilization, were pastoral nomads, is what we think. It's still a big mystery. It's not unresolved. Not a mystery, but it's a debate, let's say, unresolved debate as to where exactly these people came from. We don't know. They suddenly entered the stage of Indian history about 3,500 years ago. And because they did not leave anything behind, material evidence, we don't know very much about them at all. But we do know a lot about their practices and their worldviews and their beliefs because they left us their words. So many words in collections called the Vedas. So much wisdom, but not very many things to go and find. Okay, and so we know about them through the words, but even these words were never written down for at least 1,000 years. Nothing was written down. So how did they pass it on? How did they make sure the words came to us 5,000 years later? We still know their words. We're still chanting the mantras. This morning, we chanted a mantra that was composed in that time. How did they make sure? Yeah, Gautam? And
They told it to the next generation by speaking.
Yes. Disha wanted to say something else?
I was gonna say the same thing, like
Yeah.
orally.
Orally, exactly. So it was oral transmission. That's how the knowledge was passed on. And so if you were like them, pastoral nomadic civilization, that means you didn't build big houses. You probably lay down under the stars at night if it was good weather, or went into a cave when it was not so good weather. And you woke up each morning to the sight of a glorious sunrise, and you went to sleep under a canopy of stars, and you hoped that the rain would come and fill up the streams and the rivers so that your animals would have, and you would have water to drink, and the river banks would be fertile and pasture would grow. If you were that type of person from that kind of civilization, who would you look up to as your gods? Who would you be scared of and in awe of? You're full of wonder about them and also full of fear about them. Yeah, Sanjana. Sanjana? You want to unmute yourself?
Sahana? Is it
Oh,
Sahana?
sorry, sorry. Why am I saying Sanjana? I'm sorry, Sahana. You. I'm looking at, sorry. Yeah, Sahana, tell me.
I guess the sky and
Yes.
the water and
Yes, absolutely. So you would look upon the forces of nature, the elements,
things that change very often, and when they change.
because they change so often. And so you're never sure what their mood is. So you think of them as Leela wants to say something.
Agni.
Sorry. Yeah. Yes. So when you look up at the elements and you say, oh, that must be a god because he or she has so much power. He has power to change our lives. And then you extend it and you say, he or she has the power to give us disease, to bring drought, to bring rain, to give us, beautiful winds that drive the monsoon clouds where we are. So much power, so much beauty. When the lightning streaks across the sky, or when the sky is full of stars, your heart is full of how much beauty there is. Yeah, Leela?
So Indra.
Yes. So 1 minute, I'll ask that question, because others don't know what you're saying actually. So the Vedic gods were drawn from the elements, and just like every other ancient civilization, They gave them names. Okay. And so, like Leela said, one of them was Agni. And Agni, who would you think, if you just take English words today, who would be the gods? The sun. The sun would certainly be a god, an important god, because if the sun did not shine, then there was no life at all. So this according to the Vedic people, the gods lived in 3 planes of existence. Some of them lived on the earth plane, some of them lived in the sky plane, and then there was the 3rd plane, which is the in-between plane between the earth and sky. So 3 planes of existence, different gods in each of these planes. And how many of you know the Gayatri mantra? This is also a mantra from the Rig Veda, the oldest Veda. Does anyone know the Gayatri mantra? I'm sure some of you have heard of it. When I say it, you'll probably know, you may not know the name of it. Do you know this mantra which goes, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam? Do you know that? Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. So I saw somebody nod. Disha has heard of it. Anybody else? Yeah, Gautam knows it. Rishi knows it. Nikhil knows it. Vikram knows. Sahana knows. Yeah, okay. Vinay knows. Good. Rohan also knows? Have you heard it? Yeah, okay. So this is one mantra from the Rig Veda, which somehow, it's so old, it's 3,500 years ago it was composed. But somehow with kids today of your age, whether you're in India or, as I can see now from this group, whether you live in the US, you're brought up in the US, you're US citizens, to all intents and purposes, you're Americans. But somehow this mantra has been passed on. And you've never read it, I'm sure. It's never been written down anywhere that you read. It's somehow somebody sang it to you, you heard it, and you put it in your memory and you know it. Right? Isn't that amazing? Just by oral transmission, they gave us all their words. And let's talk about Gayatri Mantra. If it's called the Gayatri Mantra, does any of you know which deity, which god it is addressed to? The Gayatri Mantra? Anyone? Neela, do you remember it from the Gita class? We talked about this, no? Yeah, Gautam?
Vishnu.
No. Vishnu wasn't even one of the Vedic gods. They didn't worship Vishnu at all because they worshiped the elements only. So one of the elements, yeah, Neela?
Surya,
Yes. So who is Surya? Yeah, Neela.
the sun god.
The sun god. So the Gayatri Mantra is addressed to the sun god. And you remember the first line, since you all know, are quite familiar with it. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Bhu is the earth plane. Bhuva is the plane between earth and sky. Swaha is the sky plane. So Bhur Bhuva Swaha, when you say Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, you are saying salutations to the gods who live on all 3 planes. And you include, and then it starts about the sun. Oh, salutations to the radiant one, etc. So that first line actually is not a part of the Rig Veda, but the other 3 are part of the Rig Veda. That was added later. So the original mantra is only 3 lines long. Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Okay, so anyway, so the Rig Veda is full of such hymns to the Vedic gods. So one of them was Agni. Now, what does Agni mean? Yeah, Leela?
Ag means fire.
Yes. So Agni is the fire god. Yes, the god of fire. But that is his manifestation in the Bhu, or the earth plane. Okay, the god of fire and light. On the earth plane is Agni. But who is the god of fire and light in the sky plane? God of light and warmth. Wait, somebody other than Leela? Yeah, Sahana?
Surya, the sun god.
Surya. Surya is in the sky, the same warmth and light, heat and light. And then who is the same God manifested in the Bhuva plane, in between plane? So in the sky, he's Surya. On the earth, he's Agni. Who is the god in the in-between plane of warmth and light? Wait, somebody had their hand up. Leela, anybody else? I want one of the boys to answer, maybe. Rohan, Vinay, Ishan, Rishi. Who could it be? The god of heat and light in the in-between plane between earth and sky. Okay, Rohan. Rohan, you had your hand up?
The god of earth.
The god of
Earth.
earth. Sorry, I couldn't make out what you said.
Yeah, he said earth, Roopa.
Earth. No,
Oh.
no.
I didn't say
Earth.
that. Never mind.
No, say what you meant then.
No, actually, never mind. It's wrong.
Okay. Yeah, Leela.
Ushas, the god of day.
Who?
Ushas.
No, not that is the god of dawn, goddess of dawn. She's not warmth and light. I mean, it could be, but what they meant in the in-between plane was lightning. Lightning. Okay, it brings heat, it carries heat and light from the sky to the earth. Anyway, so Agni was one of the gods, and Surya clearly. Who else? Leela already said Indra. Yeah, Sahana. Indra was one of the Vedic gods. A god of what? Sahana, you want to tell me? Yeah.
Thunder and lightning and thunderstorm.
Thunder and lightning, rain, the rain bringer. That was Indra. And then any other gods that they would have worshipped? They would have worshipped the sea, the waters, just like the Greek gods or the Roman gods or the Egyptian gods. The same thing, just with different names. Okay, so yeah, Sahana?
The moon.
Hmm?
The moon.
The moon also, the earth, all the elements basically. Okay, so the Rig Veda therefore is a collection of hymns to all these various gods, and the biggest god of all of them, the most important Vedic god, was Indra. He was their superstar, he was the king of the gods, and yeah, he brought rain. So it was very, very important to the people of the subcontinent, or to the Vedic people, that rain came at the correct time. Now, so the Rig Veda had all these, hymns and everything, and everybody was saying, everybody was like, okay, as long as we pray to our gods, and as long as we keep singing their praises and, chanting these hymns, we should be fine. I'm sure they'll be happy with us. But as they noticed, the drought kept coming. That some years there was drought, there was no rain, there was always disease. Sometimes their animals got sick and died. So they said, maybe the gods are just not happy with just this. Maybe we need to add another element, not just singing and chanting and singing their praises. Maybe we need to add another element. And therefore they added an element of ritual, a puja, some kind of a way to tell the gods that we love you, we care for you, we want to give our best, whatever we have, the biggest of our wealth, we want to share with you, we want you to have it, so that you know how grateful we are to you for what you already give us. And that ritual that they created was called the yajna. Now, what does yajna mean? And that's where the yajna is Yajna. That's the ritual. So yaj and yajna have the same root, and that's where the Yajurveda comes from. So the knowledge of how to perform this ritual of yajna. And what, anybody has heard the word yajna? Can you think what it might mean? What happens during a yajna? We perform small versions of it even today in our homes. And what is at the center of the yajna? The center of the yajna is Sahana, Leela, any of the boys? What is at the heart of every yajna? Disha, you want to try? No? Okay. So at the heart of the yajna is, let me just say, sacrifice. Who said? Rohan, yes. Sacrifice is part of it, is definitely the whole idea behind the yajna. But what element is at the heart of it when you actually do it? Okay, Sahana?
Fire.
Fire is at the heart of every yajna. And I told you these people were nomads, so they didn't bother building a huge fire temple or a temple of any kind at all to the gods. Instead, they just carried a little, square, hollow kund. It was called a kund, just a hollow square thing, which I've attended pujas at homas, at whether in India or in the US, I'm sure people still conduct them, Indians. It's basically a little box, a square box into which the priest will put in a particular kind of wood, many little branches of many little bits of that kind of special sacred woods, and light a fire. And then all the puja people sit around that fire and ask and call the gods down, or send up things for the gods. So if you have seen things like that, the yajna was started 3,500 years ago, maybe 3,000 years ago. The yajna was created after the hymns and chants didn't seem to work. They said, let's create this. And what are we using this for? What is the yajna about? We give our best animals, the milk from our animals, the meat of our animals, whatever is grown, whatever we grow, the best of our crops, we put it into the fire along with ghee. Ghee comes from the milk of cows, right? You all know what ghee is. It's clarified butter. So we put that into the fire and we tell the gods that this is all for you. We are throwing this giant party for you. Please come, be our guests at this feast, and then please bless us. So that was the whole idea of the yagna. Why do you think they performed this yagna? What were they trying to achieve by inviting the gods to a feast? Vinay, Ishan?
Maybe
What
they were
sorry, go on.
maybe they were trying to, I don't know, get good blessings so that
To get
they
their blessings. Yeah.
could survive.
Why did sorry?
So they could survive.
Yeah. Yes. And Rohan?
Maybe show the gods so they can like respect. So they can show that they respect the gods.
Yes. Yes. Anybody else? Somebody else? Gautam had his hand up. Yeah.
So the gods give them something in return for them worshiping and respecting the gods.
Yes. So, we tend to think in these days, we tend to think in a very transactional way that we need to give something to the gods. Our puja, so much of our puja is about, we need to offer this many coconuts, we need to put this much money, we need to, feed so many people, and then the gods will be pleased with us and give us what we want. But the other element, actually the core element of a yagna is about thanking the gods for what you have already received. Not that you're giving them something so that they give you more, but just to say thank you for protecting us. Thank you for sustaining us. Thank you, oh sun god, for never calling in sick and saying, I can't come to work today. Thank you, winds, for always bringing the clouds our way. So it was very much a thing of gratitude. We want to thank you for what you have already given us, not that we're doing this so that you give us something else. I mean, there might have been an element of that also, but basically it is thank you, already done so much for us. We don't need anything else. We just want to celebrate you and we just want to feed you. And particularly Indra, they said, unless we can't it cannot be a one-way thing that only the gods take care of us. It's a two-way thing. It's a cycle. Remember, we talked about cycle yesterday, how whole Indian philosophy and Eastern philosophy is conceived on the idea of a cyclical time. Everything comes in cycles. That's why we have reincarnation. That's why they have the concept of karma, because everything that goes around comes around. And the same thing about the cycle of give and take between gods and men. Unless we nourish the gods, how can they nourish us? We have to give so that they can continue giving, and they should continue giving so that we can continue giving them. So it's a cycle. We have to keep giving back. And so it's basically what is Indra's job, to bring rain. But there are enemies in the sky. Sometimes we have drought. So how did they explain drought? The years that rain did not come, they said, oh, we know what's happening. There is this giant serpent in the sky called Vritra, this dragon of drought. And what he does is he puts his fat body and blocks the great river in the sky. And that's why the water cannot come down to us. And then what does our superhero Indra do? He gets on his elephant with the 4 heads. He's called Airavat. He gets on this white elephant with the 4 heads and the 8 tusks. He takes out his Vajra, which is his lightning bolt, and he goes after Vritra. And then this battle ensues across the sky. And once Vritra is killed and finished, that's when the river in the sky is unblocked and we get rain. And they told themselves, my God, poor Indra, how he takes care of us. He always goes and fights this demon of drought so that the next year we have rain. So how can Indra manage by himself? Shouldn't we sustain him? So come, Indra, come to our feast. Let us feed you. Let us wine you. Let us dine you. So that now you have energy again to go and fight another day for us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So that was the whole idea. And what was the great river in the sky? If you look up, do you sometimes see a river in the sky when there is no light pollution and you can see the stars? Anybody has any idea what this could be, the great river in the sky? What does the Milky Way look like? Doesn't it look like a
Stars.
river? Yeah, Vinay, Ishan?
It does kind of look like a
Like,
a river, like a
yeah. So if you were on Earth and you didn't have telescopes or anything, and you just looked at the sky to observe the beauty of the night sky, and you say, "Oh my God, there's a river in the sky." Ah, that's where rain comes from. Oh, so they knew that rain came from the clouds and all that, but this was just their imagination. They said, "This is the cosmic river in the sky, and there's this dragon blocking it." And Indra goes and kills the dragon, allows the water to come, and then the nemesis goes away and becomes strong again, comes back another year to haunt him, to haunt all of us. So do you know what the river in the sky, the Milky Way, what it's called in Sanskrit? Which is the most sacred river to Indians in India today? Yeah, Neela?
Ganga.
The Ganga, yes. So many of you know this, the Ganga. And this Milky Way is called in Sanskrit Akash Ganga. That's the actual word for Milky Way in Sanskrit, in Hindi. And Akash means what? Does anybody know? What could it be? You can guess. Akash Ganga. And you know Ganga means river.
Means like, I think it means
You think it means?
river. I think something, or water.
Rainy.
Water.
Rainy river, water river. Okay, that's a good guess. But no, it means
Sky. I was gonna say
sky river, the sky river. So Akasha is sky or space, the space that holds everything else. So they called it the sky river, Akash Ganga, and they believed that's where it came from. Anyway, so that's why they needed the Yajur Veda. So the Yajur Veda told you how to build that square pot square pot is not the right word, container that will hold all the wood and where you can put the fire. So then geometry, the knowledge of geometry became so developed and so sophisticated in India because they said it should be just, sorry?
If I could the knowledge of something named.
Sorry, I think somebody was unmuted. Yeah, so they said we need to write down which sacred woods to be used, and the kind of woods that is used in a yagna is actually, so when it burns, it actually purifies the atmosphere. So that's why they were called sacred woods, because when they burn, even when they burn, they give of themselves and they do good for others and the world, even while they themselves burn and are destroyed. So sacred woods and how to build the yagna kund, all this became the Yajur Veda. Then came the Samaveda. Samaveda is part of it. It has some hymns from the Rig Veda are in the Samaveda, but they are set to music. So these were the three Vedas, the original ones: hymns, rituals, and some hymns set to music. So that was the original layer of these three Vedas. And then the Atharva Veda, where did this come from? This came from people, once again, who lived among nature so much that they knew intimately plants and trees. Okay, they studied plants and trees so carefully. They knew exactly what would happen if you grind up this bark of this tree, mix it with the root of some other tree, and make a potion out of it. What would it be good for? It might heal diarrhea. It might cure something, a skin disease. If you make a potion of it, or some kind of poultice, it may heal wounds. So they knew plants so well that it almost became like another branch of great wisdom. So that's why later on it became part of the Vedas. Now we have 4 Vedas: Atharva Veda, So it's very much like Harry Potter's book of spells. Not only the potion and lotion themselves, but what spell to chant. So over that, once you give that potion to somebody to drink, then you chant a prayer or spell over their heads, and then the magic takes place. So if a soldier is going away to war, you give him something to drink, or you tie up you make a paste of some herbs, put it inside a cloth, tie it on his arm maybe, or something that he can have as medicine later while he's at war, those kinds of things. Okay, so these were the 4 Vedas. Then these 4 Vedas come in 4 layers. The oldest layer just had the praises of the hymns of praise. The next one, the Brahmana, which was written later, talks about various rituals, just like how it came. Now, it's not only the Yajurveda that has this section. Each of the Vedas have these 4 layers. The oldest part is just the hymns, then comes the rituals, then comes, so that these 2 layers, the first 2 layers are action, where you do things. You have to chant the hymns, you have to perform the rituals. So that's also action. So this part of the Vedas, the oldest part, first 2 sections are called the action part. This is just, I'm going to go through this quickly because you're going to take this home. Then what happened? Okay, I have to explain this a little bit. So once the yagna became so important, somebody had to perform the yagna, right? Who do you think performed the yagna? Somebody who was powerful and had money had to perform the yagna to say that I want welfare for my people. I want to call upon the gods so that my people are taken care of. So usually who performed the yagna? It was a king, a powerful person. A king would say, let us perform a yagna. Our country is going to country or whatever land, our kingdom is going through some difficulties, or we're going to war now. So we need all the blessings of the gods. So let's throw this gigantic party for the gods. Let's have a yagna. And then they said, okay, so how do we do this? Not all of us know how to chant all these hymns because it was not taught to everybody. Why was it not taught to everybody? Only a few people were taught these, because everything had to be committed to memory, remember, nothing was written down. So then would you not be careful to choose who would learn this very sacred information, these sacred texts? Would you choose very carefully because you wanted the wisdom in them to carry on and on and on? You didn't want a word to be lost. So would you choose carefully, or would you just teach it to everybody? So that later, within 100 years, everybody would be fighting about what the right version is? Or would you entrust this sacred knowledge only to a few people who you trusted, who would definitely keep it and then pass it on? Clearly, you would give it only to a few people and you would have a difficult, tough eligibility test to get into those schools. And only if you demonstrated how would you choose how would you choose students for your Gurukul, the Vedic school? How would you choose? How would you make sure that this sacred knowledge was carried on? Because that was your responsibility. Every guru had a responsibility to make sure that the next generation also got that knowledge. So what would be your eligibility criterion? What would the entrance exam be like? Yeah, Gautam.
You would make sure they were a good listener and
yes,
and they focus so they could get it stuck in their brain.
I think that would have been the main thing. Are they able to focus on a task? Are they able to listen very, very carefully? And then, of course, are they able to retain it and repeat it? Right? That is one part. That is just the mental power. Will you sit and learn it and repeat it? What else? Is it enough just for them to know it by heart? Or, and say that I know this, so now I have all the knowledge? Or did they need something else? They needed also to be committed to the idea of passing the information on, not just keeping it for themselves. So they needed to be the kind of people who really believed this was sacred and committed to saying, the rest of my life, I will spend just passing this on to batch after batch of students, carefully selected like me, like I was selected, and carry it on. So that commitment was also very important. So they must have done a series of tests, the Vedic Gurukuls, the teachers, chosen these people, and then passed on this knowledge slowly to everyone. Okay, so that is why, and they taught them ways of remembering so that they would never forget. And all that, if you want to read more about that, it's in my book, this Vedas Upanishad. So if this is intriguing to you, you can get the book. It's in detail how they made sure that the knowledge was carried on. Anyway, so what began to happen then is that there were a certain group of people who had been chosen, who went to these very, very elite gurukuls, who knew all the mantras, all the Vedas, but they didn't know much else about how to make a living. They didn't know how to, make a living using their hands. They knew how to take care of themselves, because in those days, the gurukul, the school, was residential school always, and you went and lived with your guru and his wife for 12 years. Okay, while they passed on this knowledge to you, you were not sitting around going home every day, getting distracted with other things, WhatsApp, Netflix, nothing. You were there in the jungle with your guru and his wife for 12 years. And what were you doing in those times? Apart from the time when you were studying, you were learning how to cook, you were learning how to maintain a house, you were taking the guru's cows out to graze. They made sure you were making sure that all the cows were fed and were brought back safe in the evening from the jungle. You were milking the cows. So you learned a lot of household tasks. You became very self-reliant. But maybe you didn't learn a trade that would help you earn a living in the real world. But these were the smartest people of their generation, very smart, but not quite equipped to earn a living in that society. So then what do smart people do when they have a challenge like this? They figure it out for themselves. They say, okay, this is not, I don't have any particular skills like that to earn a living. I don't know how to make pottery or to make jewelry or any of that stuff. And I'm not a king, so I won't automatically get, hereditary power or anything. So what do I'm not a soldier, so I won't get a job in the army. So then what do I do? I'm not a trader. I don't know how to use money and make money from nothing. So what do I do? So they said, okay, so basically we have to get together with someone who is powerful, who will take care of us always, who needs us so badly that he will pay us, give us some land, make sure we are paid. So who do we get together with? And they said, aha, we know who to get together with. Let's get together with the kings and the people who perform these yagnas, and we'll tell them that we are the only guys who know all the mantras and the prayers and the hymns and the chants. We have a hotline to the gods. If you don't use us, then blessings of the gods will not come to you. And then the kings, the powerful ones, said, oh my God, we can't do without these smart guys, because unless they pray on our behalf, we don't know all those verses and things. So unless they pray on our behalf, we won't get blessings for ourselves and for our kingdom. So they said, oh, smart guys, come and be with us. Now we are a duo. We shall always work together. We are a team. So the smart and the powerful in Vedic society got together. Now, where does the money for the yagna come from? Who pays the taxes? Who fills up the coffers of the king so he has money to spend on a big event like this? Yeah, Sahana?
The people of the kingdom.
And not any people. Any poor people will pay little or no tax. So who is the people who actually contribute a lot? Yeah, wait, anybody else? Yeah, Leela?
The rich and wealthy people.
The rich and wealthy people. And usually in those days, the rich and wealthy were the merchants. I mean, those days continue to be today. The ones who who went from place to place trading and things like that. Okay, I'll buy from you, I'll sell to this person, and I make some money in the middle. Those kind of people. So they said, oh, we can't do this without the rich filling up our coffers. So, hey, rich people, why don't you also come and we form a team together with. And so the smart, the powerful, and the rich came together in Vedic society. And when that happens, then what happens to the rest of the people in society? When the smart and powerful and rich come together, whether in an ancient society or in a modern society, what happens to the rest of the people in society? What do you think happens? Nikhil, want to guess?
No, I was just scratching my head. I don't know.
No? Anybody else? Sorry, what did you say? Did you answer, or?
No, I don't know. I said.
You don't know, you said. Yeah. Okay. I was wondering if I had missed something. So what usually happens is that the rest of the society becomes oppressed. Nobody cares about them and their needs and their aspirations, their welfare. Nobody cares because they say, well, we just make rules. The powerful will say, let's make rules that benefit us and the rich people because we are all on the same team. The others, well, they don't really have a voice, so leave them. And who are these people? The rest of society. They are the people who are actually using their hands to make the stuff. They are the people milking the cows. They are the people going into the forests and cutting the wood for the yagna. They are the people growing the crops that go into the yagna. They are the butchers who are sacrificing the animals for the yagna. So they are actually doing the potters who bring the pots in which the ghee and the milk and everything is brought to the yagna kund, to the place of the yagna. So all of these people are like oppressed because nobody cares about them, but they are the ones who are actually doing the work for the yagna. So this began to happen a lot in Vedic society. And then people got really upset and people said, surely this can't be what the Vedas say. And people who knew the Vedas, the smart people said, no, that's exactly what the Vedas say. They say very clearly that the Brahmins are at the top, the smart people, we are the top layer of society. The people who are powerful and who defend society, they are the second layer. Then the people who earn money and make and feed the society's stomach, they are the third layer. And the rest of you are the ones who serve. You are at the absolute bottom layer of society. And the Vedas say it. See, there is a hymn here. And what it says is, from Brahman, Brahman is supposed to be the cosmic power or God. They didn't used to call it God because that cosmic power had no gender, no name, and no form. But they said, Brahmans, from Purusha's head, from Brahman's head, it says so in the Vedas, come the Brahmins who think. From Purusha's arms come the Kshatriyas who fight, the powerful. From Purusha's stomach come the Vaishyas who trade, the rich people, because stomach means you feed the engine of society, keeps it going. And from Brahman's feet come the Shudras who serve. They are only the servers. It says so that we are the head, the other. So is that the way to look at that hymn? There is a hymn like that in the Rig Veda. Is that the only way to look at the hymn? That those who came from Brahman's head are superior to the others? Or is there some other way to look at it? Why do you think that hymn was there? If we believe the Vedas are full of wisdom, what else could that hymn mean? When you say from someone's head came the Brahmins who think, from the same person's arms, from the same Purusha, from his arms came the Kshatriyas who fight, from the same, yeah, Leela?
The head is where the brain is, and that's where you think a lot. Where your arms are, that's where you use, like, you could use your arms to hit things. So that's for fighting. And the stomach was the food.
Yeah, so what it could also mean then is that since every layer of society comes from the same body of the universe, the same source, then doesn't it mean that everybody is equal? Everybody just come from the same source. Like think of if you are siblings, then two of you or three of you, I don't know how many siblings you have, or one of you, all come from the same set of parents, then you are all supposed to, they're all treated equal, right? Your parents love all of you equally. And that was what the hymn meant, that if every layer of society comes from the same source, then we are all equal. That's one way to look at it. Another way is if you're coming from a body, so beautifully said that from the head, from the arms, could a body that is society, function without any one of these parts? Can a body function without the head? Can a body function without arms? Can a body function without the stomach? Can a body, most importantly, function without the legs that hold up the rest of the body? Surely not. And that's what they meant, that every aspect of society, every layer or every kind of community in society is equally important to support so that the society works well as a whole. But it was misinterpreted by the smart to say that, see what it says, we are superior to you, because it suited them. It worked to their benefit. And it happens in every society since then till today, the same thing happens. Anyway, so the people of the Vedic society said my God, if this is what is, can I take 10 more minutes?
Sure.
Yeah. So people of that society said, if this is what is going to happen, if this is what the Vedas say, then some of the intelligent ones, some of the more empathetic ones, some of the more compassionate, generous ones said, there's something wrong with this picture. It can't be right that some people are superior to others. We're all human. We're all exactly the same. And how did somebody decide? It's just that what you're good at, what you're suited for, that family you grew up in, the trade you learned, that makes us different. But essentially, we're all exactly the same. We carry the same divine spark. So how can it be that one is higher than the other? And if the Vedas actually say that, then I don't want to have anything to do with the Vedas. So two of them specifically, two princes who came from the second layer, so-called, of society, they said, there's something wrong with this picture. I don't like it. I reject the Vedas. I'm going away to seek the truth for myself. Surely there is something wrong with this. Justice is required. And those two who walked away were two of the greatest people of about 2,500 years ago, 2,500 years ago. They walked away and they became teachers and founded a new religion each. And those two were the Gautama Buddha, the Buddha, who founded another religion called Buddhism, also in India. And then maybe 100 years before or after him, Mahavira, who founded Jainism. Okay, so three religions came out of India even before BCE turned to CE. BCE and CE, right? How history is divided, time is divided, BCE and CE. So in BCE itself, three different ways of thinking, worldviews came out of India. And this was way before Christianity came, way before Islam entered. Okay, these three religions were already there. What was that? Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. So this happened. But some of the other people who grew up in the Vedic civilization, they said, you know what? I think the Vedas are good. They have so much wisdom. I'm sure they didn't mean this. They must have meant something else. But it's been 1,000 years. It had already been 1,000 years by the time since the Vedas had been composed. They said, I think we need to revisit the Vedas, think about it again, come up with the true truth of the Vedas. We need to interpret the Vedas properly. So they went off into the jungles, thought about the Vedas, and came out with new interpretations of the hymns and the rituals and everything. And so those two layers, the last two layers of the Vedas, are called the Aranyakas, and the last layer is called Upanishad. So when we say Vedas and Upanishad, the Upanishads are very much part of the Vedas. Okay, and these are the thinking part. The first two parts are the doing part. The chanting of the hymn, the doing of the ritual, also important. But once you have done the ritual and chanted the hymns, you can't stop there. You have to go on and understand what is the true meaning of the ritual. If you don't perform a ritual without understanding its meaning, it becomes an empty ritual. Do you agree with me on that? If you just perform a ritual without even understanding, just chanting some mantras, throwing some things into the fire, because my family has always done it this way. Why do we go to the temple? Because we always go. That is not, you're not using the brain you've been given. You have to think about what does it actually mean. You have to reflect on it and understand it. And that's what the rishis who went away to the forest and composed the next two layers of the Vedas did. Okay, so what about the Upanishads? So this is called the thinking, the wisdom part. So the first part is the action part, and then there is the wisdom part. And Hindu philosophy tells us that unless action and wisdom are combined, there is no point. It's not fulfilling in any way. Because imagine if you were and that's exactly what Krishna tells Arjuna in the Gita, or at least it is Sanjay. Do you know who Sanjaya was? Sanjaya was the commentator who described what was happening on the battlefield, the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. He described it to Dhritarashtra, the king of Hastinapur. He was describing it to him. And the whole Mahabharata is, or at least the Gita part is Sanjaya telling why did somebody have to tell Dhritarashtra what was happening on the battlefield? Why was he not there himself? Yeah, Neela?
Because he was blind.
He was blind. So somebody had to tell him. And Sanjaya had this gift of divine vision, and he could tell him. And Sanjaya, in the very end of the Gita, Dhritarashtra asks Sanjaya, oh, Sanjaya, tell me, so who is going to win? Are my sons going to win or are they going to lose? And he was so scared and he was asking Sanjaya this, and Sanjaya said, my king, on whichever side fights action in collaboration with wisdom, that side will win. He says, whichever side has Krishna, the master of wisdom, along with Arjuna, the master of action, that side will always win in any war. And what does that mean? We may know what's the right thing to do. We have the wisdom. Yeah, what we should do in this situation. Somebody should go and do this. Then it will be resolved. And you're sitting in your armchair and saying, yeah, I know what exactly to do. I'm an expert on this. I can tell you exactly what to do. What is the point of knowing what to do without doing it? The situation will not change if I just know what to do. But the other thing, action by itself also is no point. Say, oh my God, something's happening. I need to just go and stop this from happening. Some injustice is happening. I want to go stop it. But if you do the action without first thinking about the consequences, like we talked yesterday, what are going to be the consequences of my action? Am I doing this out of emotion? Am I doing this with anger? Is it right action? If you don't think about it before, if you don't use your wisdom, then that action may be completely wrong action. And therefore, whichever side has Krishna and Arjuna, whenever you bring your action part and your wisdom part in your head together, that becomes beautifully right action. And that's why the Vedas have an action part and a wisdom part. Only when these two come together does it become Veda, wisdom, knowledge, wisdom, all that. Okay, so the rest of it is, I'll send it to you. So the Upanishad is the last layer, and I wish we could have talked more about the Upanishads, but this is all we had time for in this 2-hour class. And I hope you will the best way to know more about the Upanishads, and the Upanishads are full of stories, so you can just read them by yourselves. My book has some of them. If you find other books or online, if you look up and find stories from the Upanishads, you'll find the same wisdoms repeated over and over again. Okay. So thank you very much. Namaste. Where's Anu?
Namaste. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Ruma.
We will send you these slides via email.
Yeah.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye.
Dhanyavad.
Hope you
No,
guys
Saurabh
had
is also here. Acha, I didn't
Thanks.
see him.
Hey, Soren, how is your mother doing?
She's
Bye.
better. She's better
Bye,
now.
Disha.
Bye.
But thanks for a great class again. That was really nice.
I can send you, Soren, the recording of this session.
Okay. Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. Stop it.